It's a very Beavis and Butthead, episode 69 of the Metal Roundtable. I am Metal Rob, and with me as always is the great
Carcass John
Fossum. Okay, let's get to the first order of business here. What's on your stupid shirt?
It's not a stupid shirt. It's a cool shirt. And once again,
okay,
you can't get it.
I don't think I can. You bet me your whole collection too, and I didn't even get close, did I?
No, you weren't even close. You thought it started with an F, and it doesn't.
I came up with Frost Tower.
Frost Tower is not close.
Right.
So it's Mortiferum. The greatness of Mortiferum, they're brutal, brooding, doomy death metal, and they're awesome.
Nice.
And I think that we're having Hat Day here at the Metal Roundtable.
We are.
So I'm sporting the self-made Oath of Cruelty nappy hat, and you are wearing the omnipresent protest trucker hat, which I should have bought one when I saw them last week.
Yes.
Or was that last week?
Yeah.
That we did
day 2 of the Halt of Metal Fest. In fact, let's do our quick shout outs, and
that was
maybe we'll bring on a couple of guests to help us with our topic today. But I will tie this in by saying one of our guests invited us to host. I keep wanting to show my hat, and there he is, Mr. Spicoli brought us in. Mr. Spicoli brought us in to host night 2 of the Halt of Metal Fest, which is where I got my protest hat, which is my shout out for this week, and often referenced, but never appearing on the show until right now, is the GOAT.
Hello.
The GOAT is here.
Mighty Goat is here. The fact checker.
You know, if you're local to Dallas Radio, Nawabam Lance, yes. You also know Spicoli from The Bone, KEGL, KPCK here in Dallas, and currently KNON on Reckless Rock Radio Sunday night from 10 to midnight.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be here with you guys. Carcass, Rob, what up?
What's up?
Yes, sir. Well, we're here to talk about one thing today, and that is the greatness of the new wave of British heavy metal and all things that implies. And Carcass
very dear to me personally. I'd say it's probably my favorite scene, if there is such a thing. Does that make sense? You know,
I think it's a theme.
Thrash, LA glam, you have New York thrash, or New York hardcore, Norwegian black metal, new wave of British heavy metal. That's where it stops and starts with me.
Nice.
Yeah, behind Bay Area thrash, I think new wave of British heavy metal would be a very close number 2 for me.
Right on. What got me into it was this thing right here. Diamond Head, Behold the Beginning. This was my first intro. My real intro into it was because Metallica was covering their songs, and I didn't know who they were, and listening to Metallica turned me on to Diamond Head. And so I started digging deep, and I went to the mall one day, found this, not this exact cassette, this is a new one that I've replaced it with, but I've grabbed this, and I freaking loved the whole thing. And then, as we all know, this bad boy came out, but I didn't discover that till years later, and I'm going to let the GOAT talk more about that. But what got you boys into the new wave of British heavy metal?
Well, for me, it was Metallica, like you said. But, man, within the last probably 10 or 15 years, that became a new project of mine. I've had never really delved too deep into it. And once I started digging, I started finding a lot of gold. As far as the standards, you know, if you look right here, well, let me move. If you look right over here behind me,
yeah,
the Lightning to Nations white label CD or vinyl,
Yes.
and the awesome Blitzkrieg vinyl.
That Blitzkrieg thing is fantastic. And I didn't realize, I didn't realize that Blitzkrieg was even a band until a few years ago when you started collecting all that stuff.
You just thought it was a
Their
song?
whole catalog is fantastic. It's not just that first EP or that first single. If you even go up to their most recent albums, they are a solid band.
Fraser Dawson is careful to point out that Diamond Head is reissuing as a re-recording that first.
Yeah, and that is stupid.
I think it's stupid too, but I
Why?
don't know. I don't know. Well, I guess it's not stupid.
Would Metallica re-record Kill 'Em All? I mean, that's just silly.
I don't know. I mean,
Cutler needs a check. He ain't touring, man. That's why.
Yeah. Well, Exodus re-recorded Bonded by Blood. I thought it was kind of cool.
Mm.
Okay. Well, maybe not. Well, I mean, the only reason I know anything about new wave or British heavy metal is because of Rob Dew McNeese and of course the mighty Rodney Dunsmore, who we've had on the show, who I think has the book of all the releases, and I think he has almost every release in that silly thing. But my question for the experts is Judas Priest part of the new wave of British heavy metal?
No.
What about Iron Maiden?
I would say the first three.
So why isn't Priest? Were they too early?
Too early.
Yeah, too
They
early.
started in '69.
And not even the same style.
That was if there was an original wave of British heavy metal,
Yeah,
that's where they would be. The second wave was around, what, 79, 80?
79 to 82 is what I consider new wave of British heavy metal.
Yeah, and that's when you got Maiden, Def Leppard, Diamond Head, Gaskin, all those freaking bands.
Holocaust.
Grim Reaper.
Yeah, I guess you could throw Grim Reaper in there, but I don't know.
Tigers of Pantone.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
definitely Tigers of Pantone.
You're
Yes.
good, Spicoli.
He took his magic hat off, and now we're just like, well, here, I'll take my magic hat off so you feel like we're doing the Hollywood Squares thing.
I like it. Spicoli, what brought you into the new wave of British heavy metal?
Hello. You guys are frozen.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, we're frozen. Technical difficulties.
Well, I'll keep rolling. This got me into it. I liked every song on it, and it was not until I didn't realize until many years later that Def Leppard was a New Wabam band on their first couple of albums, that sort of thing. I didn't realize that a bunch of this stuff was lumped into the new wave of British heavy metal. And then when the Goat started down the rabbit hole several years ago when we were collecting records, he got me into this. I knew about this, but I did not realize the importance that this record had. So tell us about that, Goat.
Yeah, that's a killer compilation. Yeah, I had that on cassette back in, I think it came out in the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me put on my old man shades here.
But yeah, that amongst many other compilations, Metal for Mothers, what else? Rock Snacks.
Oh, yeah. Lead Weight.
Yeah, Lead Weight. Yeah, those compilations, because to me, the Nwabam's more about all of those singles. It's not really, I mean, you've got some great albums in that genre, but all of those bands were so early at that time, and they weren't getting signed to major labels, and they were just spitting out those singles. So that's the way I like to listen to it. I mean, yeah, there are some good albums, like I said, but I'd rather listen to a good compilation or just break out the singles and listen to it.
Well, and one of the things that I think is so cool about this Nwabam 79, which I believe you and I both have on CD, cassette, and vinyl. Am I right?
I do not have the vinyl anymore. No.
You do not have the vinyl anymore. what's important about this is that Lars Ulrich put this together, and this brought so many bands to the forefront of my knowledge, even all these years later, because I did not know about this in 1990 when it came out. I didn't know about this. I'm sorry, it popped up on my radar like in magazine ads, but I didn't know a whole lot about it. But dude, Sweet Savage is on here, Saxon, which Spicoli is a huge fan, and I kind of forget that they're a new wave of British heavy metal band, but man, they're a huge Nwabum band. But man, you've got Raven, which people know, but some of the lesser knowns like White Spirit, Parallax, and I'm talking stuff that you know. But Def Leppard's on here, Samson, featuring a young Bruce Dickinson. Man, there's so much good stuff on here. Gaskin, and I'm not trying to just read a list, but Vardis,
doing a nice job.
You mentioned Angel Witch. Holy cow, Angel Witch.
Yeah, I was actually reading on that today about that classic show that was Iron Maiden. Samson, I believe, was the headliner. Maiden was in the middle, and Angel Witch was the opener. And Angel Witch blew them off. That's back when Maiden was. I guess that's when Jeff Barton pinned the moniker Nwabum, and that's when Iron Maiden was a 4-piece at that point. They weren't even.
Oh wow.
They still had, what was that guy's name who was their first drummer, or not first drummer, but their
Clive Burr?
No, I think his name was Sampson as well. Dougie Sampson or something like that.
I don't remember. Well, I've had 2 live brushes with Nwabum bands, and they've both been outside of seeing Maiden several times over the years. I've had 2 brushes with what I would call classic. Maiden is just stratospheric huge, but I'm talking about classic Nwabum bands. We saw Diamond Head together. All 3 of us were at that show.
Yeah, Diamond Head and was that Raven? Diamond Head and Raven.
And Raven too. Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, Diamond Head and Raven on the same bill, and the Goat tried to keep them from getting their luggage that night. I remember that very specifically, and yeah. And then
sure there was no alcohol involved.
No, I don't think there was. Actually.
Oh, really? Well,
their luggage was just sitting in the middle of the floor in the right in front of the stage, and so I guarded it for them.
Oh, there you go.
But they came out, and we were 1 foot from Raven and Diamond Head, and Raven was great. They played their asses off, and it was a really cool show. And but what starstruck me was when Brian Tatler was just the length of a mic stand away from us, and I was just like, oh my God, he's right there. They're gonna play Am I Evil? I don't know what I'm gonna do.
You're gonna say yes, I am.
Oh my
on the chorus. That's what you're gonna do.
That was a great show, man.
Yeah, that was
and don't forget about the Underpining with Mothership and Steel Bearing Hand kind of leading the way.
Oh yeah.
That was a stacked bill. That was a really good show.
That was my introduction to Mothership.
Oh, right on. Cool. Yeah,
Yep.
I knew about him a little bit because I filmed that set. And in fact, Diamond Head's set and Raven's set are both on YouTube with permission from the band from that night. So if you go to YouTube and you look up Raven Boiler Room, you're going to find it. It's the whole set's out there. Mothership is out there, and I think the Diamond Head set is out there. I can't remember, but they all gave me permission to put them up. But the other brush with greatness that I had that was amazing, and unfortunately my compadre, the Goat, did not make it, was I took a trip down to Austin and went to a place called Beerland because Satan was touring the States, and the Goat had turned me on to Satan through our record collecting. I knew about what's the classic album? The Court in the Act. Court in the Act. I knew about that, so I had it in my collection. But then the Goat turned me on to Life Sentence, There's not
That's
a
amazing.
bad moment on this. This is in my opinion, this is the best thing they've ever done, and it's not even close.
That's some of the greatest guitar shred you'll ever hear.
Oh my gosh. And then standing this far from Brian Ross and that guitar player, not Russ, but the other guy. Oh my gosh. I'm drawing a blank. But standing there with your foot on the stage, and there's Brian Ross in an animal t-shirt and water socks, just delivering the goods, and track pants. Oh, that was awesome. It was that guy. I can't think of it. Can't come up with his name.
I think it's Graham English, maybe.
That's the bass player. Oh man, that's killing me. I'm looking like an idiot on the show. That's not hard to do, though.
No, you're not the expert.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm supposed to be the expert. So
yeah. He's the expert up there. That guy.
But man, they killed it. That was.
I didn't get to see them live though, so I don't know their names.
That was another Rodney Dunsmore joint. I think he brought them over here, and they did like 10 or 12 shows. I think they ended up in Chicago and did some other things up north and whatever. But I mean, that's how much Rodney loves the new wave of British heavy metal. I mean, he'll just buy a band and tell them to come on over. You know what I mean? So I know it's a movement. It's a big thing. I mean, we know Paul Gaskin. He's a longtime friend, and we've had some similar health issues. So it's kind of fun to talk to them on a human level, but they're still doing their thing. And I know he's got a side project that's basically like a modern version of Gaskin. I mean, the thing about new wave for me is there's some really, really killer essential stuff. Witchfinder General, Pagan Altar, A to Z, Holocaust. They're one of my favorites. Savage, Praying Mantis is pretty cool. I like some of their stuff. But there's a lot of it that almost sounds like a precursor to hair metal to me.
Right.
So, you know, and I'm into the little more heavier stuff, but you know, it's all it all had to start somewhere. And it's kind of cool that even though these guys maybe put out 1 7-inch, that they were kind of at that forefront of trying to create a new genre, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
I think we owe basically everything since then to that movement, because you have everything from thrash elements to hair metal elements to progressive elements. It's all covered in that one genre.
Well, and there's no Metallica. You know, that Lars was so into that scene, and it influenced them so much. You can't hear it so much in the musical, you know, in the playing necessarily. Maybe you can. Maybe somebody cooler than me can pick out the Wabam parts of Metallica songs. But man, you get Maiden, you get Metallica as a byproduct of it. You get Def Leppard. I mean, and then the big ones on the second tier, like Angel Witch, is just fantastic. And the GOAT brought me way back around through the record collecting into Angel Witch, and Holocaust was another one along the way that you turned me on to. So what got you rolling in it, GOAT? What got you rolling into that?
Man, I was just looking for something different. I'd been listening to all the same stuff for so many years. And like I say, about probably 15 years ago or so, I stumbled into that. I've listened to some of those bands back when I was a teenager, but honestly, I didn't really know about the scene at that time. Stuff like Tokyo Blade and Saxon for sure. And God, I can't think of any others off the top of my head from back then. But
what about Venom?
Oh yeah, Venom. Well,
Venom, Vardis, even Grim Reaper, Jaguar. Remember that Jaguar record you found at the Abilene run, one of our Abilene runs, Rob?
Oh yeah. War Games,
man, what a ripper!
I've got Axe Crazy right there.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Well, there's a ton of stuff available. In fact, I had heard that since Lars was from Europe and we didn't really have the internet back then when he moved to the States, that he had all this tape collection of all these killer new wave bands, and they started listening to those. And of course, nobody has ever heard of the Diamond Head or whatever at the time. But I think if you listen to like Seek and Destroy or songs like that, you can hear a little Am I Evil? You can hear that same cadence and that same song structure. So I think that,
yeah, I can see that.
Especially on the first record, I think that was the Diamond Head was a wild influence. But to their Garage Days, revisited, man, there's some. I mean, like the Budgie songs, and I don't know if you classify Budgie. Maybe they came a little later than that, but
yeah, way earlier.
But even that whole European scene that nobody knew about in the States became very prominent, and in a Icky Lars kind of way, he said, "Ha, we didn't tell anybody that we were just doing cover tunes." They just thought that these young kids are cranking out these amazing songs, and they were basically a cover band at the beginning. But they brought that stuff to the forefront, and people got curious as to who the heck is Praying Mantis or Diamond Head or Venom, for crying out loud.
Well, and I saw an interview with Brian Tatler recently, and he's like, "I get paychecks because of Metallica."
Oh, yeah.
He's like, they kept me fed. I mean, not exact words, but basically they just kept them going because of royalty checks from covers and licensing the songs and all that. And I think it's amazing that this comp, got them back on the map. And there's so much stuff, like Saxon is still going, putting out strong records.
We've seen them, or at least once or twice,
in
recent years, and still killing it.
Yeah, they're not any worse. In fact, some could say that they're actually way better. I mean, the production obviously is way better, but man, they're heavy, they're fast. Biff still has the pipes.
Yeah, he does.
And Saxon's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm never going to get over the fact that Def Leppard is two bands. Period. They were a Nawabum band on those first two albums. I absolutely love those first two records. And then the change started to happen with those guys around Pyromania, started becoming more commercial. And then with Hysteria, that it's barely even the same thing. It's the same guys, but it's barely even the same thing. But
I don't even really consider those first two albums Get Your Rocks Off or whatever it is, the single, maybe, but
they didn't really want to be new.
No, it's way too polished for Nawabum. Those first two albums, even though they're great, I love them.
The EP probably holds up, but after that,
that's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to put my hands on it, and I can't. I think I've only got it on vinyl. But yeah, I forgot all about that EP. That EP.
That's probably what put them in that category. But after that, to your point, I think that they immediately wanted to steer away. They were young. They were way younger than most of the guys that were in the scene at the time, and they didn't want to be really associated. They were kind of like almost like Death Angel is to thrash. They were associated with the Bay Area thrash scene, but they sort of created their own weird genre, and they were doing slap bass with songs and whatever. But I think Def Leppard kind of did the same thing, but in a kind of an obtuse way. They wanted to just get away from the scene as quickly as possible. But they're still part of it. Whether you like it or not, they were still part of the team there, at least initially, in my opinion. And what do I know?
Well, if you're gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's just so many smaller bands that are rumbling through my head. Mithra was a great band.
Oh wow, that's a great band.
Who else? Virtue was another one who put out a solid single.
Hollow Ground.
Hollow Ground, absolutely. Hollow Ground, killer. There were so many bands that you don't really hear about unless you grab one of these compilations or something along those lines. And I'm glad I ran across all of that stuff because it's great music and has become a part of everything I listen to now.
Well, and like Carcass said earlier, we've been friends on Facebook with Paul Gaskin for a while. Super nice guy. And so I was trying to get him on the show today, and I didn't realize that the time difference was quite as large as it is. Like, it's midnight over there right now. I thought it would be like 9 or 10 o'clock. And he was gracious and wanted to do it. But so to kind of get ready for that, I just Googled Gaskin on YouTube, and pow, here comes this album that I've never even heard. And it was great. I can't pull it up now, but I'll have to get with you, Goat, and figure out what that was and if you've got it, because man, it was good. And I just like, how have I never heard this? Nawabum is such a cool rabbit hole to get started in, because to emphasize your point, there's so many bands that never made it, period. They put out a song or two and never went anywhere. And then there's some bands that put out a few songs or an album and you just never heard of them. But like you said, the beauty of those compilations is you have a place to start. And once you hit YouTube or Google or whatever, you're just going to uncover all these bands. And fortunately, a lot of that stuff has been reissued. Like Buried by Time and Dust did some killer reissues. And I can't remember. Well, is Neat even still around doing stuff?
No.
No.
I think they were out of business in the 90s, weren't they? In the late 90s?
Actually, the lead singer from Tigers of Pantang, they're off their first album, Jess Cox, he bought and ran Neat Records toward the end of its heyday. And now I can't remember what his new label is. He has a new label as well that they put out some reissues occasionally. Fastway, ooh.
That's a tweener. Yeah, they didn't Fastway kind of get their start in 79? So that fits your 77 to 82.
That's a good question. I've never thought of. That doesn't come to mind to me, Frazier, as a Nawabum band. This came out in 83. To me, this is more of a traditional 80s metal band.
Yeah.
And it's hard to kind of classify that because there were so many influences and so many different styles of, Nawabum is not necessarily a style as much as a movement. There are songs,
but it does have it does have its sort of a sound. There is a traditional Nawabum sound to
there
me.
Is, yeah, with the twin guitars and but I remember through record collecting too, so much of this goes back to record collecting for us because we were out hunting for this stuff, and I remember finding what was the offshoot of Satan? It was Satan with a different singer, Pariah.
We ran across Blind Fury or something.
Oh, like that. Yeah. We ran across that Pariah record, but I think one of the pieces of gold, my favorite thing about my Nawabum collection, which is very small, is that Nawabum 79 stuff. But you've got one of the holy grails. You know what I'm referring to. Tell us about that, and tell us about the different versions and that kind of thing.
Well, mine is not signed. There were a few different versions. Either mine was not signed or the guy who originally owned it kept the signed cover. But this is an original, 100% original Lightning to the Nations with just the plain white label.
Yep.
Oh, wow, I got test pressing.
No track listings, nothing. And it will never leave my possession ever.
Tell about the versions. I'm going to grab mine to show.
Yeah, then there was another version that you have that where they actually got a label on the vinyl itself when I guess it was Happy Face Records is what they created.
Well, to your point about collecting that stuff, some of it you better be ready to remortgage your home in order to buy some of them because they're so
Right.
expensive. So it's good that some of these guys are just putting out like reissues or what have you, and sometimes it's only available on CD, which I know takes some of the intrigue out. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's about
I
the
own
music.
some of that stuff. I love those reissues.
So Goats has the white label, and this was the second version
Yeah.
that because they were selling them so fast. The first version came out that he has, then this one came out that had labels, but mine still has only a white jacket. Mine is also not autographed.
Hmm.
And then they came out with the one that had the colorful cover and all that kind of stuff as they were selling so quickly. But
Well, I was lucky enough to
I'm
run
stoked
across
to
these for, I think I got you yours too, right?
yes,
I
you
think I bought
did.
both of them, and they were $100 a piece. And now they're probably, I don't know what they would be worth these days, but
Yeah, keep vamping because I'm going to show everyone on the show the Holy Grail New Wave of British.
yeah, I knew that was coming out.
I
Well,
forgot.
and so Lance, you said something about a certain sound. I'm reminded of Clovenhoof, whose sound has completely evolved into something else, and especially with our local hero on vocals, George Call. I mean, they're almost a power metal band at this point. So do they still get included in that in the genre of new wave, or?
Oh, that early stuff, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't guess you would still consider modern versions of those bands to be Nawabum bands, but or at least
they were there at the beginning, I guess.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. They were. Rob, I used to offer him just about every kind of trade I could come up with for his Cloven Hoof record, and I could never pry it out of his hands.
Couldn't pry
You
it out of his hooves.
Hoof record?
Huh?
You never got my Cloven Hoof record?
Mm-mm.
Which one? I got the reissue from you.
I don't remember. Well, so this is kind of a sad story, and in a way, I kind of feel bad. Now I'm going to leave out some of the details because I don't want to identify who it was or in any way make fun of the situation. But I had been looking for a long time for this specific record. It's impossible to find, but Lance and I were almost in I wouldn't say it was like a heated competition, but we would always find cool stuff that was like, oh my gosh, look what I found. Oh my gosh, look what I found. And his Google foo on finding Nawabum records is ridiculous. I mean, he was finding stuff, but we'd go to shops and we'd pull out different things. And he did get me into that quite a bit. But I was sitting on Facebook one day at my desk, and somebody posted that this record was available. And so I started sending some messages, and the guy said, yeah, it's legit. And some people saw that we were talking about it. And this guy messaged me out of the blue and said, I want you to know I've seen this record, and it really is real. It really is. So if you can help this guy out, he would not only be gracious to sell you the record because he needs the money, but also I know for sure that it's real. And it's even been on Antiques Roadshow. Did you know that? This record has been on the Antiques Roadshow, apparently. Now, I don't know if it aired, but it has been where they taped it and they looked at it. And the record we're talking about, yes, sir.
You win.
Well, it's not a competition.
I know.
One of these days, one of you boys may end up with this thing if you pry it out of my cold, dead hands. I mean, what? But what's
I'll hit him high, you hit him low, Lance. And we'll just pass it back and forth between households.
Okay.
So this is the very first Iron Maiden recording. It's called the Soundhouse Tapes. It's very hard to find. It's been reissued on CD and different colored vinyl. Well, I sent the guy the money. I sent him a box inside a box inside a box with an overnight shipping label. And sure enough, the thing showed up and it was in great shape. I mean, it looks played, obviously. It's been played for 40 plus years. But there is a good luck, Donnell. I'm faster than you, buddy.
I don't know about that. It's Iron Maiden now.
Well, if I got to protect this, I can get away from all you boys. So the thing shows up, and I'm still thinking, man, I hope it's not the 1981 pressing, because there was one that came out a couple of years later. And I don't know if Maiden did it or some record label did it. I can't remember. But I sat down and I looked and I only had Discogs information to go off of. So I was pretty confident in what I had, and I could see the faded matrix number in the run out and all that, geeky shit. Well, no kidding. The next month or two, Iron Maiden's Fan Club magazine comes out, and guess what the main article is? How to tell if you have a legit copy of the Soundhouse tapes. So thank you, Steve Harris. Thank you, Iron Maiden. I have a legit original Soundhouse tapes. That's easily the best record in my collection, I think. And I've pared my collection down pretty far, but man, if there's a 1A and a 1B, the 1B has got to be that Diamond Head record that you have.
Yeah, I would say a toss up between that or to me that Blitzkrieg 7-inch is just as important.
Yeah.
I have a signed copy.
By the way,
I have a signed copy of End of the World by Gaskin.
Nice.
What you say that again? I was reading.
I have a signed copy of Gaskin, End of the World, signed by Paul Gaskin. Is that good?
Very nice.
Good.
Okay. All right. I wish we could have had him on. We're going to have to do a follow-up show.
Oh, for sure. He'll have stories galore. But
I didn't have that one. I had No Way Out, I think.
No Way Out. That's another good one.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's killing me that I can't think of the name of that one I was listening to last night, but I was going to message him about it.
He has one that's not, it's maybe 2007. It's pretty recent.
Stand or Fall was 2000. Edge of Madness was 2012. So yeah, they're still doing this stuff. They're still playing. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, and I know that in fact we'll have to have Rob Doom McNeese on, because I know he and Rodney have gone to some of these bro fests over there, and
yeah, I was about to bring that up.
And seeing these guys, I mean, all these new wave bands play. I mean, that's all it is. It's just 2 days of new wave of British heavy metal reunion type stuff. So talk about geeking out.
Yeah, I would kill to get one of those.
We talked about it. We missed the best one. We missed the best one they ever had. We talked about it, and I wussed out, or I don't remember what happened, but oh my gosh.
Yeah, Rob and I were going to go on a date to England. And
well, yeah, try traveling now to England.
Not happening. Well, boys, what else have you got about the new wave of British heavy metal?
I'm a little bummed that Spicoli disappeared.
Yeah,
I was looking forward to hearing his knowledge, but Lance, I know you're more adept at this stuff than I am. In fact,
unfortunately, I'm drawing a blank on a lot of the good stuff. I'm not very well prepared today.
And I used to think
you did fine.
Honestly, I used to think that it was just like whatever. And now that I think about it, I guess I have to revamp my opinion, because there's a lot of killer bands. In fact, I was thinking of another one called Chaser, which I told Rodney Dunsmore, once again, I keep bringing him up because he's the foremost opinion, he and Rob McNeese probably. But I've been looking for Chaser. I've been chasing Chaser for a long time, and they were deemed the British version of Rush, and finally he had one for sale. You know, he's got tens of thousands of records and did a record pull and found an extra copy. And so, and as I listen to it, takes a certain kind of mood to listen to that type of music, the new wave stuff, and it sort of set me off into new wave land, listening to Holocaust and Vardis and Gaskin and Chaser and Fist. That's one of my favorites.
Fist on the way in the mail right now.
Yeah,
Nice.
Grim Reaper is another one I think gets missed out of there. Tigers of Pantang. I've got several versions of the Witchfinder General. I have one that's on clear vinyl, one that's on red, one that's on black. Which I know back in the 70s and early 80s, that colored vinyl was like an enigma. It was like
Yeah, I
super
had that
weird.
clear one. I really wish I hadn't let that go.
I don't
Well,
know if I still got my Witchfinder General records or not, but I have a clear one as well.
I know a couple of guys. I know a guy that has maybe a couple extra copies. So we'll have to,
Yeah. We can work a deal.
work a deal. But anyway,
All right, boys. That was good. We covered a lot of ground. I think the main takeaway from it is, like Lance said, if you are looking for a new music rabbit hole that will take you weeks and weeks or months or years to get through, go grab a couple of new wave of British heavy metal, otherwise known as Nawabum comps, and start digging into those bands. There is so much on YouTube that you can just go from link to link to link. And hopefully we'll get why in the world I didn't think to call Rodney. Why didn't I think of that? So
we already had a stacked show. We had the Goat, and we had Spicoli, and then you know
we'll have a Nawabum 2 or 2. Sorry, that's offensive in England, I think.
what?
We know something about a really extended compilation that someone did of Nawabum stuff. You have all the CDs. That's a great place to start. Yep.
Hey, where'd you get those? Where'd you get those, big fella?
From that guy.
Yeah, you have extra copies of those as well.
I can get you some copies. I can get you copies. Yep.
I'll just read. Man, you could read this. This is just dozens and dozens of.
Yeah, that when I started listening to that set, there were bands that I had never even heard of.
Oh my gosh, Dealer, A to Z, Tank. I'll go all day.
And you
It's basically every Nawabum single.
Yeah, and then it starts out with the demo tapes version.
Yeah.
And then it goes through all the 7-inch singles and it's just, this is great. Carcass, you're the man. I know you're not as into this, and so I was glad to get that from you.
Mm-hmm.
In one of our blockbuster deals.
As one of our buddies would say, I do everything for you guys. So
that's right. Yeah, the
anyway,
poser.
The poser. I bet he doesn't know the first thing about Angel Witch, but I digress.
Boys,
But I bet
that's we'll get Rodney on. What we need to do is get Rodney and Paul on, and just let them tell stories about the scene, because we're just looking in from the outside. But that Rodney will know, and Paul will have been there.
Right.
So
and we'll sit there like this, like with Donna Halper last week. We're just like,
oh my gosh,
this is so amazing.
Oh man, did you see any of that, Goat?
Yes, that was great.
Oh my gosh, I still can't believe. She popped up on my Facebook feed this morning, and I was just all over again. I can't believe we got her on. I can't believe we had Donna Halper, the discovered Rush.
And then you followed up with me, so there's that.
Well, just trying to keep the momentum. Just trying to keep the momentum, Lance. That's all we're doing.
We love our friendly neighborhood Goat. Every time I watch the movie The Witch, I think of you.
Oh yeah.
That's what.
What's his name?
That goat that I gave you. That's what we should have called it. Is Black Phillip.
Black Phillip.
Black Phillip.
Well, he's Black Phillip now.
He is now. He used to be Tiberius, I believe.
Yeah.
Pentagram necklace, right?
Yep. Pentagram necklace.
Okay.
Sits on the right hand shoulder of the Lord of the Lair over here.
Okay. Nice. That is the goat lair that you guys are peering into, by the way. I've witnessed it, and it is a force to be reckoned with. It is a formidable. Let's see. One of that metal.
Yeah, time for me to get into a new wave of British heavy metal. Okay, Fraser.
Well, I think you're into more of it than you realized. Like
Right after I listen to Mortiferum, I'll go ahead and jam some of that Savage or Pagan Altar or Nuff Z Nuff. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's not new wave.
Okay, that shot's fired. All right. Well, you boys, I enjoyed episode 69.
Well, thank you for having me for 69.
Oh, dude, yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. Thanks for coming
I bet
on.
you wouldn't.
And I texted Spicoli, so I'll give him a call and catch up with him. He'll be on in the future for sure. He's got lots of insight as well. So you know how we do it. Any parting shots, anybody?
Oh, I do want to say thank you to Tanner Poppin from Madras, because Madras, he hooked me up with some tapes and a T-shirt, and Scott Waters, our good buddy, hooked me up with their new album plus this comp. Speaking of comps, we've been talking about comps. Well, here's another one where I've learned all about new music, and it includes Banshee and some other stuff on there. So anyway, thanks to those guys. But thanks for coming on, Goat.
Yep.
It's been a long time coming. Now that our facts are always checked, now people know who's checking them, and yes, you are a force to be reckoned with. But
yes,
that's all I got.
All right, boys, you know how we do this. Until next time, metal will prevail.